Have you ever really thought about what's going on inside the companies you're invested in? I mean, sure, we all see the stock price and the earnings reports, but what's happening just beneath the surface? Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on something huge in responsible investing: transparency. Just think about your own portfolio for a second. When you invest, you're placing a bet on a company's future. But are you sure you have all the info you need to make that a smart bet? What kind of risks, what secrets might be hiding in plain sight? This analogy really hits the nail on the head. Imagine falling in love with a house because it looks great from the outside, but skipping the inspection. You'd have no idea about the cracked foundation or the faulty wiring. That could, frankly, ruin you. Well, in the investing world, undisclosed ESG issues, that's environmental, social, or governance problems, they are that faulty wiring. They are hidden, and believe me, they can be incredibly material risks to your financial future. So, how do we, as investors, basically conduct our own home inspection on a company? That's where the Principles for Responsible Investment, or the PRI, comes into play. You can think of it as a global toolkit designed specifically to uncover and manage these hidden risks. And today, we're grabbing one of the most essential tools from that kit. Okay, let's get into it. The solution to investing with blinders on, it all comes down to demanding transparency. And that is the absolute heart of the PRI's Principle 3. It's all about getting to see the whole picture, not just the pretty parts. So here it is, the principle itself. It sounds pretty simple, right? But it's so powerful. This little sentence represents a huge shift, a move from being a passive bystander to an active owner. It's not about just taking whatever information a company decides to give you. It's about stepping up and demanding the full story. Now, this doesn't mean investors are asking for every single piece of paper a company has ever produced. The key word here is appropriate. What investors are really zeroing in on are the issues that are financially significant, the kind of information that could genuinely affect a company's bottom line and its value over the long haul. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Investors are looking for what we call material issues. Simply put, that's any piece of information that could seriously impact a company's finances, and by extension, your investment. It's about cutting through all the noise and focusing on what really truly matters to the health of that business. All right, so to really get a feel for what a material issue looks like in the real world, let's do a little case study. We're going to dive into one of the biggest E for environmental challenges out there, one that carries some massive financial weight: climate change. Okay, so you've heard of the Paris Agreement. It sets this really clear global goal for limiting warming. But why should an investor care about an international climate treaty? Well, it's simple. Companies that aren't getting ready for a low-carbon world are a really risky bet. And to figure out who's prepared and who's not, investors need very specific data. And that brings us to two key metrics investors use to get that data. Now, they might sound kind of similar, but they tell two very different and equally important sides of a company's climate story. First up, you've got absolute emissions. This is the big, raw number. It's the company's total climate footprint, plain and simple. It tells you exactly how much that company is contributing to the overall climate problem. It's a vital piece of the puzzle. But this is where things get really interesting. Emission intensity is all about a company's efficiency. It's a super powerful tool because it lets you compare companies of totally different sizes. You can see how the carbon efficiency of a small tech company stacks up against a giant manufacturer. It answers the question, who is creating the most value with the least environmental impact? Okay, so it's not just about emissions data. Being transparent about climate risk also means understanding the two main ways that climate change can hit a business where it hurts: its finances. So first, you have the physical risks. These are the direct impacts you see on the news. It could be an acute event, like a wildfire suddenly wiping out a factory, or it could be a chronic shift, like a long-term drought messing up a company's supply chain. These are real, tangible threats to a company's buildings, its equipment, and just its basic ability to operate. And then you have the transition risks. These are almost like the hidden dangers of the world moving to a greener economy. Just imagine a company that's built its entire business around coal. What happens when a new carbon tax suddenly makes their product way more expensive, or a breakthrough in solar power makes it obsolete? That right there is a transition risk, and it can be just as financially devastating as any hurricane. So we've seen how demanding transparency can shed light on environmental risks. But what about a company's impact on people? Well, that brings us to the S in ESG, the social issues. And believe me,
A company's track record on human rights can tell you a whole lot about its risk management and how well it's actually run.
Now, that's not just some feel-good platitude. It's a recognition that companies that ignore human rights aren't just unethical, they are a bad investment. They open themselves up to massive legal problems, serious reputational damage, and even consumer boycotts. So, managing these risks isn't just about doing the right thing, it's about doing the smart thing. So, how do investors actually do this? It's through a process called due diligence. Think of it like that home inspection we talked about, but for a company's entire global operation, searching for any potential human rights problems. It's all about making sure that the money you've invested isn't accidentally contributing to harm somewhere down the line. Okay, so let's tie this all together. What does all of this really mean for you and your money? Let's recap why demanding this kind of transparency is so absolutely critical for your financial health. Here's the bottom line. If you don't have information on these material ESG issues, you are investing with an incomplete and, frankly, a flawed financial picture. Demanding disclosure uncovers real, tangible risks to a company's profit, whether it's from climate change or from problems in its supply chain. This is just a core part of being a prudent, smart investor. And in the end, all this transparency leads to companies that are managed better and a financial system that's stronger and more resilient for all of us. So now you know the power you have, the power of asking for the full story. It's time to start asking questions about where your money is. Demand to see what's behind the walls. You might be surprised at what you find, and you will for sure be a smarter, more informed investor because of it.